Hi, welcome to House and Home Chat, Real Estate Real Talk with Dena and Chris. I'm Chris Breitenbach.
And I'm Dena Mathis, and we are changing it up today. We're doing something a little bit different and going rogue.
We're going rogue, everybody.
We're doing something a little bit different moving forward into the new year. But we're going to continue to chat, shout out, and promote our local small businesses. But we're also going to be bringing you shorter real estate real talk segments that focus on our local Cincinnati market. And today we're going to be sharing with you some insight from Dr. Lawrence Yoon, who's the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors.
And Dena, I don't know about you, but and won't surprise any of you. Okay, I find economics to be exciting.
Oh my God, you would.
Talk facts and figures to me, baby. Woohoo!
Well, I may not have back in college when I was studying economics, but I guess as it pertains to life these days, I find it exciting.
It makes a lot more sense.
Exactly.
So recently, Dr. Yoon spoke to the agents at Coldwell Banker Realty, sharing his insight into where we really are in regards to the real estate world.
That's a question we get all the time, isn't it?
Absolutely. And where he thinks we're going. Our
even bigger question, right?
We keep saying the crystal ball.
Right.
So our real estate market our real estate world is a crazy place right now.
It's crazy. I mean, but you know what? It's always crazy.
It's always crazy. And we're never happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're
one reason or another.
Yeah. Either a house is on the market too long and not long enough. Anything, we're never happy.
Exactly.
And yet we're always happy at the same time. But some key things that we need to realize is even in this crazy real estate world, prices are holding on.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I just worked with a buyer client last night, and although the pricing isn't continuing to escalate at the same rates that it was, and I think that something needed to happen, right?
Yeah, right.
To flatten those rates out.
Right.
But they are remaining stable.
Yeah. So that's, everybody was talking about the sky is falling. The sky is not falling. We've said that for months and months and months and months.
If you've been listening to us,
Yes, absolutely. Now, mortgage rates have been very crazy right now. They shot up well over 7 and are at a 20-year high. And, really over the past 20 years, what we've seen is even though there's been fluctuations and ups and downs, there's been this downward trend, right? Mm-hmm. And we're talking 20 years. We're at a 20-year high. So there's a lot of people, I might say, hey, I bought my first house and I was at an 8 or a 12% interest rate. Well, you know what? Most homeowners haven't owned a home or have come onto the market. They've never experienced it. So
exactly. It's the first.
Yeah. And it is a total change and devastating. So we get that and understand it.
There's some contributing factors to that,
though. There are. And the reason why is rates have been low because our inflation rates have been low and mortgage rates are tied directly to inflation rates.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So the low inflation is a direct correlation to low interest rates. Mm-hmm. And as the inflation has increased, thus have the rates, right?
Absolutely.
So that's where we are right now in the market. And, looking at the difference between the treasury rate and the mortgage rates, it's typically 2%. So what that means is that whatever the treasury borrows at is what the mortgage rates will also follow within that 2% spread. So if the government borrows at 4%, then the mortgage rates are going to be 6%, right?
Yes. Except there are some exceptions.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we should be right now.
That's where we should be. Mm-hmm. But that spread right now is a little bit larger. We're at a 3% spread, and that's why we're seeing the escalation of the mortgage rates into 7%. And there's reasons for that. Some of it is tied to banks protecting themselves and making sure that they continue to move forward. But Dr. Yoon anticipates, as we would too, that spread's going to be back at the 2.
That's going to be back at the 2. And, that it is predictable to some degree, right? It's not completely an unknown variable.
A random.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Chris, tell us and tell our listeners, is the housing market going to plummet? Is the bubble popping? Are home prices going to crash?
Here is my emphatic no. And the biggest reason for this is we have supply issues.
Yeah.
Right. Dr. Yoon forecasts that we will not crash because of the severe lack of inventory that we have. Lack of supply and demand. Lack of supply means that we're going to promote higher prices, even with the higher mortgage rates.
Right.
We're in a far different place in 2008.
That's exactly right. We are in a different place. And looking at the statistics, we now have about 1 million homes currently on the market, as opposed to 4 million homes that were on the market back in that 2008 timeframe. So you can truly see that the number of homes and the lack of inventory is going to keep us fiscally sound and keep the market from the housing market, that is, from taking any huge tumbles.
And so really what we see is that these are good indicators for a solid, sound real estate market.
Yeah. And then looking at future supply, looking at new construction, it's interesting that over the last 10 years, that new construction has actually underproduced in relation to the population growth. So this inventory shortage began many, many years ago, and we're in it right now. And a lot of it has to do with the new construction or lack thereof, right?
Right. The new construction just hasn't kept up.
Right. But, in spite of this all, there are interesting conditions in the current market. And, we're talking about the lack of buyers, right? But really looking at the statistics, as of October of this year, 42% of homes sold at or above the list price.
And I'm sure that surprises a lot of people.
Yeah, so they sold at full price, even though there are not that many buyers out there right now, they say, right? And why is that? It's because homes are going into multiple offers, and it's helping to, drive those prices, right?
Yeah, that lack of inventory is still affecting it.
Right.
But on the other hand, if 42% are selling at or above list price, that means 58% have had some room for some negotiations.
Yeah. And we've negotiated on a contract last night, right, with my buyers.
You did.
So we were able to, come in and negotiate a good price.
Yeah. On the flip side, my client who recently sold their condo
went into multiple offers.
Well, they didn't go into multiple offers, but our original offer was at list price.
At list price.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there's still opportunity to negotiate under the right conditions, because, as you said, 58% of these homes are staying on. The days on market are longer. And with the days on market, it means for a greater reduction in price, just like the market that we came out of before we were in this, crazy multiple offer kind of place, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And what about the median listing prices?
So the median listing prices are up over last year, right? They're down from the spring and summer. But that's due to seasonality, right? So if we compare December to December, the median price is up from last year. And looking into the future, the population continues to rise, so people need more housing. And Dr. Yoon says that half the country may see a price decline of around 5%, but the other half is going to continue to see a rise, and probably a rise of about 5%.
5%. Yeah, and that's interesting. But of course, as we know, different parts of the country are experiencing or have experienced, big fluctuations and big increases. Like take that San Francisco market, or Seattle market. Some of those West Coast markets have seen much bigger increases. So you're going to see a bigger decrease.
They're just more volatile, So we're definitely stable here in Cincinnati, which we like to see. Hey, just some real quick. Here's what we see as the forecast. First off, rates. What Dr. Yoon was saying, that rates, even though they've been up over 7, we've recently seen them reduce to the mid 6s, and potentially by spring they'll be down into maybe that 5.5, 5.6% range, and if not, then potentially by the end of the year.
Yeah, that's
so
not bad, right?
Compared to 7, 5.5 looks good.
We'll take it.
Yeah,
hopefully we'll get it.
The housing market forecast for 2023, home sales as a total should be down about 7%.
But interesting, prices will be up,
but
right?
the prices will be up about 1%. And I assume it's still going to be that competitive inventory situation.
Right.
And finally, 2024, getting out that crystal ball.
Way into the future. You're gonna actually predict that?
I'm not. I'm just going
Yeah.
by what I've learned. You know what? The long-term factors will come into play, and the forecast is we'll see sales rise about 10%, which is good because if we drop next year by 7%, we go up 10%. That's a net gain. But prices will rise an additional 5%.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a really interesting point, Chris, because that being said, the stability that we're seeing presently in the market, and then the forecasting of prices going up makes this a really good time to buy, right?
Yeah, and you know what I always say?
What do you always say?
I always say, hey, if the time is right for you to invest in real estate, if the time is right for you to buy or sell a home, then the time's right.
Yeah.
And the market's perfect for you.
That's what we say.
That's what we say.
And that being said, we also live in Cincinnati, so we're going to probably see a lot less, peaks and valleys. It'll be much more of a moderate increase or decrease in the market. And, for our next show, we're actually going to focus on new construction. So as we've just been discussing, and we've heard, one of the reasons that we do have a shortage of inventory is the lack of new construction over the past 10 years. So we are going to really focus on new construction and how that will help change that.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us. This has been House and Home Chat Real Estate Real Talk with Dena and Chris. Join us next time.
Join us next time. Thanks for listening.
Bye.